It happened later when the daddy said, oh, now I'm going to name this boy Tashi. So the construct in being something that did not pop out of the womb along with the baby is therefore not something which comes from its own side through its own unique way of being. That's a sign that it doesn't come from its own side with its own unique way of being. And that's an indication that it is only a construct of the mind. The fact that it didn't come along with the baby from the first moment. And that's an indication, or that's what it means when we say that that thing doesn't exist by definition. That's what it means when we say that that thing doesn't exist by definition. And the fact that that doesn't exist, the fact that a construct which does exist by definition is something that could never apply to the boy, is the yongdu, or the totality, or the emptiness of the boy. Okay? The fact that there could never be a concept which did exist by definition, or which did come from its own unique way of being, which applied to the boy, is the very emptiness, or what we call totality in the mind-only school of the boy. And there you go. You got all three of those groups of the mind-only school. Cool? If you think about it, I've now described that process with the same object like 3 times. Now there's a thing in Buddhist writing called the fault of repeating yourself too much. Okay, what's it called there's a word in English. Yeah, redundancy. Okay, so he says, you might think I'm getting into that compositional fault called redundancy. Not the point. I'm just trying to get it clear in your mind, so don't think I'm being redundant. Okay, we've been through it with the same object about 3 times. I hope you're not saying thank you for being redundant. We started out this class running that bulldozer through the forest. We had all these tree trunks laying around and all this crap on the ground and everything. Now the whole thing is one nice, clean field, flat, even, well raked. Is that? Did we get there? Did it really, in your mind, become a clear, clean, open field? Tombo karanse. Establishing these 3, which is this whole concept is very tricky. Establishing the 3 groups, right? With regard, the 3 very groups of constructs, dependent things, and emptiness itself, right? What we call totality. Establishing those 3 in the same manner through using these 3 ideas with regard to unchanging things is a little tricky, right? What was our arena? Our arena was changing things. Now if you go on and use, if you try to explain the existence of the 3 elements with regard to unchanging things, or by using unchanging things as your arena, a little bit tricky, okay? It's a little bit tricky. That's going to be a little bit of a tricky thing. Nothing is. No, sir. We got a little bit left, just a little bit of cleanup work to do. Mop up. there's a little bit of mop-up to do with establishing what it means to be a construct. We're just about at the end of it. Remember, we are trying to identify what it means to be a construct. We got most of our work is done. We got a little mop-up to do about it. We'll try to get to that other point. We'll cover that. How do those three groups apply to things which don't change, unproduced things. But right now, next time we'll just try to do a little bit. At the beginning, we'll just do a little mop-up work on constructs, and then we'll move on.
This is
Okay, so just to wrap up, just a little concluding dessert. We're talking about this stick. Got this stick here, and don't forget what school we're in. We're in the MindOnly school, and I'm going to come up to you, and somebody's going to walk up to you and say, "Hey, what's the Yongdrup? What's the totality? How do you describe the emptiness of the stick, please?"
Well, I guess if I could put a question back, are we talking about the totality, the emptiness of the stick,
Yeah.
or of the concept, the construct?
Karishu. 东西 nyukuki Yongdrup sigyore, kunda korarangi Yongdrup sigyore. We're talking about the stick, the basis, the thing which is empty. Okay. So how would you characterize the totality, meaning the emptiness of the stick, in terms of the MindOnly school's language, using their concepts?
I like what Robert said. I would have said the absence of the construct of the stick having any existence independent of the constructing mind is the totality of the stick.
Tope kuntakpe kuntak tope matape kuntak de tonshi tendu madupati Yongdrup tope madupe. You got with regard to he says, you're close, but you need a bit of a brace to walk down the street. Yours was pretty clear, and yours was concordant with theirs. But he says the one it is that from the beginning, the fact that from the beginning, I lost it. To make it easier, you've got the kid that's named Tashi, you have the state of the mind that calls it Tashi and creates the concept or the construct of Tashi, and then you have the construct of Tashi as a kid, Tashi the kid as a construct, which does exist. But the absence, with the fact that the boy does not have any nature of having a construct which applies to him, which construct is existing by definition. The fact that a construct which existed by definition could never apply to the boy is the emptiness of the boy. And that's pretty much, I think that's pretty much what Robert said.
And that was the one that was non-existent?
The Pugudi tendu meju kundati roas, the meju kundati ki dongshi tendu mebadi, Diroa, significa. Exactly. Yeah. The fact that the non-existent construct doesn't exist with the boy. The fact that the boy doesn't have the construct which doesn't exist is the boy's totality, meaning the boy's emptiness. But you could also, and sort of express it, don't forget you can also always say that the existing construct does apply to the boy, right? That the existing construct, which is not something which exists by definition, right? That the existing construct, which is just, that the fact that the existing construct, which doesn't come through any nature of its own, from its own side through any unique nature, the fact that that applies to the boy, you can also get into that. Okay, that's another way of, you could get into that also. You see, you don't only have to go at it from the point of view of the construct which doesn't exist. You could say the fact that the construct which does exist doesn't apply to the boy as a thing which comes from its own side is also related to the boy's emptiness.
That's the two ways of the constructs anyway. That's the two divisions of the construct.
Yeah. That's all. So he said, just before he said, I feel a little uncomfortable if you just define it in terms of the construct which doesn't exist. Because you could also describe it in terms of the construct which doesn't exist, not applying to the boy as a construct which exists through any unique nature of its own, from its own side. Phew.
Tashi ko dena tashi ki tashi re sambi samloku use dele songa tashi yimba korwa ko tashi yimba ko pugu ko amani kokan kema tawto yamane merete ta ko kanzam tira ko tashi ting du yare yamani tashi ting du yare pugu ko chumata
pugu tendu yare okay
kanzam tira ko tashi ting du yare
now want to ask a little bit more question. Ran out of time, but we'll ask one more question. Paging on last question to you. Paging arila nga din che yo. Dati tama re yang lagi. Okay, last question. There's this construct of Tashi the boy, right? There's this construct of Tashi the boy, and it applies to Tashi, right? It didn't apply to Tashi when the boy first came out, right? There wasn't a concept called Tashi the boy that applied to the baby when it just came out of the womb. But can you say that there's a concept of Tashi the boy which applies to the boy later, after it's been named? Dagaranes, Tashi did Pugu di Tashi Yimbas, Pugu Tashi Yimbe Kundadi, Tashi Gitandu, that Shapuchini Jela Dimba, did Dukudus, did Megudus.
Ko kuiting the mepa se se ngi thana ke che te nong ku sha di the mepa ta me chu ku ta me chu kunda ko kuiting the mepa se na ta jen ani bi ti che ya ma to ya kunda ko kuiting the mepa se na ya kunda ko ni yo wa so ta shi mepa se na nok ta te.
So I go along. I remember that your first point was that the construct which doesn't exist, the construct which existed from its own accord or something like that, that doesn't exist on top of the boy, later, on top of the boy named Tashi. Did Chegang and Lesha Jede?
There was two ways of explaining that.
Did it one.
The make you darty tendi madus, make you kundati tendi madus.
Kuiting do mepa se ina ya tashi ko tashi shi ming ju bi shi imba chi wa ta so sa shi ra cha king shi imba chi wa ro tashi ding du me pa lam de ba ko tashi ding du ba ta ke me pa ti yong du se na de ba ni ta de na
da yegi kunda ti tendi madu ba de
yegi kunda ko tashi ding du me se lam na tin de ba ya
nale
ko yong du bre se lam na tin
yeah, and so he just wanted to point out that the real emptiness, or the real totality of Tashi, is that the idea or the construct Tashi the boy in its self-existent form, right? As something which comes of its own accord from its own side and is not just something constructed by your mind. The fact that that does not exist, or the fact that Tashi does not have just that kind of kundan, that kind of construct, is the yondu, is the totality, is the emptiness of Tashi. And I agree with you, and I think it's important to say that the fact that when you speak about the construct which does exist, the construct of Tashi the boy which does exist, the fact that you have to keep repeating that does exist with Tashi, that Tashi does have that. That you do have to say. You have to be careful not to describe the emptiness of Tashi as in any way as being directly related to the idea that to the construct which does exist, because that would be dangerous. He said, I like the way you did it in the first place. Is a good way to do it like that. And then there's another idea in MindOnly, the fact that Tashi is the thing called Tashi. Okay? The fact that Tashi is the thing called Tashi. Now whether that exists by definition. Okay, that's what he's saying. He's sort of getting us ready for that. The fact that Tashi is the thing called Tashi. Now we got to talk about that. Okay? What's its nature? Does that exist by definition? Okay. Tashi seya ki shi yimba. Di tani ki duba yina mena da di na nyok chai. Tashi seya ki juk shi yimba.
Rangi tani ki chup yona chup ngai ma tu ta ko seya wa. Rangi tani chup sana.
We're getting into a whole other question, but I like it because I've always wondered about it. The fact that Tashi is the thing called Tashi, does that exist by definition?
Okay. Fact or Tashi's being Tashi by definition?
No.
The fact.
The fact that Tashi is the thing called Tashi. Does that exist by definition? It would seem to be you'd want to say yes, right? He's kind of got it twisted around to the thing that's called Tashi being something that exists from its own side. No. I guess you'd say Tashi being called Tashi, does that exist by definition? And he says no. And he says why? What's the indication? He says that's not such a hard one. The fact that Tashi is called Tashi, the fact that Tashi is the thing called Tashi doesn't exist by definition, because if the fact that Tashi is the thing called Tashi existed by definition, the minute the kid popped out, everybody would have called him Tashi. That's hard for me. Tashi seya ki tane jupe jukshi yimba de rangi tseni ki ma dupte pugo du ma thak tu dila Tashi segi mebe che.
Tema se ko ang su ang che sho sena dine kora Tashi se ko do san de sambo ko ang che shen sha sa. Wang ja ku kini. Wang ja ka ku kini. Ta ko yeta me ku wang ja si. Ko yuti de shine ko le so ma do di sambo ko me de ko zan mi do wa.
Another indication of that is not just that he wasn't called Tashi the minute he popped out. Another indication of that is that who is it that has the most authority in creating this baby in creating, quote, Tashi the baby, Tashi the boy? Who is it that has the most power? It's the state of mind that calls him Tashi, right? That's the one who has the authority to create the thing called Tashi the boy. And that didn't happen until later, right? That doesn't happen on its own accord. And that's another indication that thing doesn't exist by definition. The fact that Tashi is called Tashi doesn't exist by definition, because it's the state of mind that names him Tashi that has authority over the whole matter, and that didn't happen until later. Nothing yet. Okay? Nothing yet. Michael's not lying when he says last question, because each proceeding one is the last question at that point. At that point it becomes the last question. He says it worked in your mind, and then you got it and you started giggling. Okay, ready? Pergi joshi medotam, rira bringshi ninde gyambadi, sangye shindu mente wangi, dogunam dakshina jabasho, idam guru ratna mandala kamya dayami. Vadi kyewo kun sanam yeshe zozo shin sanam yeshe mechuwe doba kunyi doba sho. Touching again. Oh boy.